welcome to the video. What we're going to do in this video is actually talk you through making fueling adjustments on the carburetors by adjusting the needle height. Now this is if you've got a Dynojet kit fitted to your bike. You can adjust that needle height position because the actual needles are slotted. If you don't have a Dynojet, you can still make adjustments using small M5 washers. So when it's all apart, I'll talk you through doing that as well. So let's get started. Okay, so airbox off as we covered. Now I was really hoping you could get to the top of the carbs without removing them from the inlet, but I forgot at what extreme angle they're at, so you have to also remove the carbs from the inlet. Now to do that, you need it, they're held on with four tightening like Jubilee type clips, the same as what the airbox is held onto, but obviously down at the inlet level. So to get to those, you need to go in under the frame, which unfortunately means the side fairing panel has to be removed. So we'll do that. Okay, fairing panel removed. We're now ready to take the carbs off. You need to get to the carbs from here, sort of just under the frame. Now let me see if I can show you what we're looking at. This one here is the carb on the far left. And then you see the next screw is there for the second carb, etc, etc, and there's two more a bit further in there which do get trickier to reach. But start off here. So unwinding, and these clips are retained by little cutouts in the actual rubber. But they're actually broken on mine, so they start to spin. So when it's loose, that starts to spin and move away from me. Let's go to the second one. That one's gone, etc, etc. Okay, the carbs have all been loosened down the bottom here on the inlet securing Jubilees. Now make sure you have got these quite loose, because as you pull the carbs off, there's obviously a lip on the actual inlet which tries to expand the rubber slightly more to lift it over the inlet lip. So make sure they're actually loose enough to fit over that lip as well, or you're making yourself hard work. Okay, I've got a bit of rag just here to catch any drips because there's an overflow on the carb here. As soon as we lift these carbs, and if you tip them, fuel is going to pour out of that, so just put a towel or something underneath that to collect any spills. I'm just going to pull these off and rest them like that. I'm not going to remove them right from the bike. I don't want to have to undo all the throttle button cables, the choke cables, and all the rest of it. So I'm going to do as little work here as possible. This here is the throttle position sensor, which tells the ECU what position your throttle is at. So we've loosened them, so let's just give them a tug, rock them back and forth. I can feel those starting to, these can be really tight, and actually removing them is the easy part. There we go, putting them back on is even more tricky. So they're away now, they've come away from the inlet. Let me see if I can just show you, there's my inlets on my bike there. You just see all four of them with the carbs removed. Okay, carbs are off. I've just literally sat them, they were sat like that when they were on. I've just literally sat them like that. That's all we need to get into the caps and to get at the needles. One thing it's worth doing is, obviously you don't want any debris or anything going down your inlet there into your engine, so just block that off, put a clean towel, put a clean rag over the top, and sit the carbs back down again like that, because the last thing you want is any little bits of dirt going through your engine. Okay, so the next job is to get the caps off the carbs. Now they're retained by 3 small screws in the top. So loosen these, 2 at the back, 1 at the front. One more here. Hopefully these shouldn't be too tight, they should be just nipped You've got to hope, you know, there's not been a gorilla taking your bike apart in the past and done everything up ridiculously tight. Now as they come loose, you can see that cap was trying to lift off there. Get yourself a little pot to catch all your bits, and there's a spring pushing that cap off, so gently lift the cap away like that, and you'll see in there you've got the diaphragm and the spring which puts the tension on the needle when it goes up and down. So I'm just going to put this cap carefully to one side, remove the spring like so. There's your spring, and this is the Dynojet kit. In the Dynojet kit you get a slightly different spring with a different tension. There it is there, so you can see it. You put that safely away somewhere clean, and now you need to remove the actual needle is inside of here, so you actually need a little screw now. If you use a screw from the cap which you've just removed, which is an M5 I believe, you screw that into the top of the diaphragm like that, and if that's coming out very clearly or not. Once you have that in there, you then just take the whole slide out. There's your needle at the end there, and then grab your screw here and pull, and it should click, he says, and slide out first of all the retainer on top there, so put that aside safely. And the next thing in there, you can now actually push the needle up. Now be careful, because there's a couple of small washers on here, and the last thing you want is those dropping down and getting lost. So I'm just going to tip those gently out. There's the needle, and there's the washer. Okay, so put your slider to one side. Now, there is the needle. There is the Dynojet needle. Okay, you can see at the top there is a small circlip or C-clip, and you can see it's actually notched. Well, I don't know if you can see, but hopefully you can see it's actually notched where it attaches. Now, at the moment I'm third position up from the bottom, and if I wanted to richen the mid throttle on my bike, the transition from sort of on the pilot circuit, the lower end, to full throttle, this is what the needle controls. Now, if I wanted to richen this, I would lower that circlip, hence raising the needle up in the actual carb, so more fuel would get through. If I want to lean it, you move that clip further up, which lowers the needle and lets less fuel in. So down raises the needle, richening. Highering the clip lowers the needle, hence making it, leaning it. So I'm going to very carefully, not over the bike because I don't want to lose this. Okay, so what I've done there is raised that clip up to the notch above where it was. Okay, which raises that needle, so it lowers that needle, sorry, in the actual carb, and will make it slightly less rich. Now, this is how the Dynojet needles look. If you haven't got Dynojet needles, you can still remove the standard needles like this, but they won't be notched and they won't have the circlip. So what you can actually do is add small M5 washers to the bottom of the slide where this sits down on, and raise it up. By stock they have one tiny small M5 washer, so if you wanted to raise your needles to lean it, you would add some additional to richen it, you'd add some additional washers to the bottom of your slide. So we're going to put it back together now. So I've put on, so you have to carefully, if you just see in there, you can see the bottom of the slide. You need to just pop your needle back in, through the hole, let it drop. Make sure you also have the stock M5 washer underneath. Drop it in. Get the retainer. Okay, once you've slid your needle back into your slide, replace, this is a little retainer basically, you push that back on, it only goes in one way, you can see it's shaped. Push it down, you hear it click, and that is actually in place. It still waggles around a fair bit on the needle there, but that is actually in place there now. And you just slowly take out your M5 screw which you had in the top to pull it out, like so. And you're basically ready to put this back together. Now these diaphragm pieces, they're getting on now, these bikes, and these can perish, and sometimes they can be tricky to actually get back onto the bike. So let's have a look how this one's going to go back. It should be okay. It was right when I did this the other week. So slide it back on, and you can see there's a little piece here notched out to go into that. Now if for any reason you can't get this to go back in, you need to get it back into the little recess in the top of the carb. Now you can use a little bit of, if you can't get it to stay in place, you can use a little bit of silicone grease, like what you'd use on brake calipers, that type of grease. So you can see mine has gone back in fairly easily there. Okay, so just make sure it's right on. Take your spring, which was removed, slide that over the top of the slider. Get your carb cap. Now move, and then tuck that inside. Okay, let's do it this way around so you can see. Put the spring inside of the cap, like so, and tuck it down over the slider, and then make sure you have it the right way round to help, and then put some pressure on it, hold it in place like that, and then just nip up the screws. So making sure you keep tension on it, otherwise that spring will lift that cap back up again. Is it trying to lift? Just going to check my seal is definitely in place properly. One just gently nipped, 2 and 3. So that's that carb done. After we tighten them slightly more than that, just give a tiny little nip, not too tight. And there we go, and then repeat for the other 3. Tank back on, seat back on. I haven't started it yet, so it's the moment of truth. So let's some choke as well.